I love her very, very, very much, and I want to protect her, and I want the right things to happen to her, and I want her to be with the right people and to have a super life.
The only sense I got was that her daddy was the greatest thing that ever walked down the planet. It was almost like he was her hero.
Whether she was 11 years old and hitting the ball with him, or when she was 15 and number 8 in the world, you could just sort of see the smile and the glow in his eyes whenever his darling Carling was out there.
I think that she really had a lot of special attention from my dad in every way. You could call it favoritism, but that sounds negative.
There was no jealousy. He would do anything for anyone. And we knew that Carling was becoming a celebrity, but it wasn't the focus of the family.
I always had a ton of people around me, but I always called my dad. Like he was always the one that understood what I was going through, because my personality was so much like his.
In January 1985, John F. Bassett was with his wife Susan and daughter Carling at a tennis tournament in Florida. For 3 nights, he could not sleep because of headaches. He went to the doctor to discover he had 2 inoperable brain tumors.
I remember finding out about it through my mom, and it was done very subtly and very casually, like it wasn't that big a deal. Dad's sick and he's got cancer, and but he's going to be okay.
I don't believe for a moment that Carling ever thought that he was going to die. I don't think that moment would ever have crossed her mind.
But in May of 1986, John F. Bassett succumbed to his illness. He died at 47.
I mean, when he was sitting in that hospital and just half alive, I still thought he was going to live. And when it happened, it was just, it took a while for it to sink in, but it was devastating.
Sometimes losing a relative in itself is difficult to accept, but when that relative is your best friend and your buddy, that's a double-edged sword.
To avoid hitting her pain face-on, Carling left for the French Open immediately following the funeral.
And I remember watching a match on court number 2 and looking down on the red clay, and there she was, sort of, all you could see was her, sort of framed against the red clay. And then she beat a French player named Emmanuel Derly, I think it was, a pretty obscure player, but she really fought so hard, and it was very emotional just to watch her, knowing what she'd been through, but I think she was playing for her dad at that point.
She made it all the way to the quarterfinals, but after that, her ranking took a tumble.
But I don't think her heart was really in it after Dad died. Though it was her goal to play tennis, it was also his. And so when he left, I think some of that desire went.
I didn't see the hunger and the eagerness in her face anymore when she played. I think he was a driving force.
But Carling kept at it, and it's a lucky thing she did, because it was on the stairs at the French Open where she met American tennis star Robert Seguso.
Well, I wasn't there for the beginning of that relationship, and boy, I could feel the heat all the way over in Canada.
I kid about the time I first met him. We were on a tube going to a Bruce Springsteen concert at Wimbledon. And Carling had a little bit of a crush on him and said, "Oh, isn't he divine?" And he had like tattered jeans on and the American T-shirt, and they had the wild romance, and they were madly in love.
Wild romance? No, I thought she was too young. A lot of the guys in the locker room, they're actually pretty brutal when the male tennis player is trying to date the female tennis player. So they were pretty brutal. So I was kind of very low key with it.
You could see things happening. I mean, it's a little bit hard. You can see chemistry between two people. And when Carling, sets her goals, she's right there, and she saw Robert and decided that was a man that she was very interested in, and I don't think he had a chance.
They married just over a year later. Carling was 19. 6 months after that, Holden John Seguso was born.
This is, it's a tough thing to say, but I think if her father was alive, I don't think we would have ever gotten married. I mean, just because, she's 18 years old, she's top 10 in the world, and, and he's an athlete, and he probably would have shied away from, or pushed Carling away from any type of marriage, or especially having a child.
Carling's life seemed to be falling back into place, but behind the happy family, Bassett harbored a dangerous secret. It would almost cost her her life.
When I saw an article in Sports Illustrated and I saw her photograph, and I was devastated, and I thought, that's not my daughter.
After giving birth, Carling Bassett Seguso returned to the tour. It was May of 1988. By July, her ranking had slipped to 233rd.
Physically, I wasn't the same as I was. And, you know, I had a child, and I had a very tough time leaving him. And he would travel with me, but there was just a lot of confusion. And then you have to understand, I was married to another professional player, Robert, and at that time, his career was, that was it. He was #1 in the world still in doubles. And so I was all over the place. I was traveling with him one week, then I was playing, and I had this baby, and I was traveling with a nanny, and you just get tired.
She had changed a bit from the fun-loving child with all that energy. It became more of a routine, more work for her.
Carling was also struggling with a disease. She was bulimic and had suffered in silence for that past 5 years.
I mean, she went back to her, you know, her bulletary days when she was 15, 16 years old. So, she had that disorder for a long time, and she said that was her main reason that really held her back from even doing better in tennis.
There was so much put upon me at a young age. Instead of just keeping the focus on tennis, I got stripped in so many different areas, and I just totally lost control.
The only thing she could do to try to keep everybody's happy was stay skinny and still hit the tennis ball.
So you're totally powerless over it, and it slowly but surely destructed me. I mean, emotionally and physically. But the scary thing is people didn't really realize it because I maintained 127, 130 pounds, throwing up 22 times a day, around the clock.
I really wasn't aware, and I was with her a lot, and I never saw the throwing up or you know, the starving or, you know, whatever was involved. I really never saw it.
But one day, something happened that made her finally stop.
I remember Holden was about 7 months old, and I was going down the Lipton tournament, and I was with my husband meeting my agent, and all of a sudden my heart just went. That was it. I just thought I was having a heart attack. It was a severe anxiety attack.
So I actually had to pull over to the hospital, and we went to the emergency room. I took her in, and I'm like, you know, what's the story here?
Got in there, they put me on the table, I just flooded everything out. And it took that rock bottom for me to just, the lights were on. It wasn't even an option anymore, because I didn't want to die.
I think what it did, basically, is it brought it in the open. I mean, now I was aware, her family was aware, and, you know, doctors were aware, and, you know, Carling's been hiding it for so long that, you know, now it's out in the open. And I think that was actually, you know, I think that was a big relief to Carling.
Carling retired from the tour in 1992. She and Robert started a tennis academy in Florida and had 2 more children, Carling Jr. and Ridley Jack. They sold the academy in 1997, and now their main focus is coaching their own kids.
I've given my whole life to them, and they're doing kind of the same thing that Rob and I did, and there's not a greater joy. I now know what my father felt when we succeeded, because he had a huge heart, and just to see all of that, what you put into your kids and have them excel at something, it's amazing.
We have a great life. Basically, we spend 24 hours a day together. We get up, we have the same routine every day. When we get up, we kids train in the morning. We always go get our coffee frap at Starbucks, and we always share it. We share everything.
I couldn't see her any happier. If she'd gotten to #1 in the world, I don't think she'd be as happy as she is now with her husband and 3 kids.
Today, Carling Bassett Seguso lives in Boca Raton, Florida, right next door to the tennis academy she and husband Robert used to own. Their son Holden is a promising junior player who recently reached the semifinals of the Orange Bowl, the event that sent Carling to the big leagues. Along with coaching, Bassett Seguso works as a TV tennis analyst and spends time helping others who suffer with eating disorders. For Profile, I'm Rod Black.